are you? So today is the 19th of December 2022. I'm very excited to have you. And this is going to be our last recording for the year 2022. We have come a long, long, long way and we are super grateful. So before I tell you what exactly we're going to talk about, I want Emily to introduce herself and then we discuss. Emily, karibu.
Thank you, Nema. We've done several sessions on this channel. And my name is Emily Ochieng. I'm a parent and teen sex ed coach. So I talk a lot about sex, sexuality, and relationships. And I'm happy once again to be here with you for this last session of 2022.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'll always say thank you. You've really, really, really taught us a lot. So for those who are joining us for the first time, the first week we did what is sexual abuse, and then we went ahead to talk about the special needs. We went ahead to talk about online sexual abuse, and today we're going to talk about consent and responsibility. Yeah, you've heard about the stories going round and round. We have created what are they called? It's called a folder, a playlist. We created a playlist called child sexual abuse on our page. So if this is the first time you're seeing us, please go there and just watch the whole series. All right. So on consent and responsibility, we have had lots and lots of stories of, oh, CG, I went somewhere, I bought someone chips, and they were expected to. Oh, I went there, CG, I bought her a gift, or I bought him a gift, and we were supposed. So, Emily, what is consent?
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
I love talking about consent a lot. So first, I just want to draw everyone to the basics of consent. So consent merely means permission. It's allowing. Those are the basic definitions.
Yeah.
So in different setups, then the context change. For example, now sexual consent will be a different consent relating just to the normal face. But consent is a big thing that has to be taught and has to be learned because it's about boundaries and respect.
Yes.
So you can't practice consent holistically if you don't understand boundary, if you don't know how to give and how to receive boundary, and if you don't know how to give respect. So those are the basic grounding for consent. Literally us going back to the drawing board and starting with the basics, which is boundary and respect. And these lessons should literally start from the day agenda.
Exactly. And that's, when I was reading about it, they said the same thing, boundary and respect. And it is self-respect and respect to the next person, because you don't want someone who will just enter your space without permission. I think we tell this even to the toddlers. Before you take anything, ask. You just don't enter anybody's house and start behaving. So when it comes to sexual consent, when is it given? At what point do you discuss?
Okay. Yes. So literally as a child starts going into the phase of puberty, so you start really focusing on also how they're enforcing their boundaries with their peers, because this is a point of a lot of interactions with the peers, one. Number two, in the puberty itself faces, there's a lot of crushes and attraction that occur. So a preteen and a teen has to be empowered how to handle this. So, and this is why we say we go back we start here. Basically, it's literally not start as the sexual point, but we are emphasizing on boundaries, especially as this particular time, because then otherwise they get lost into the world of others. If they can't control their own world. So these preteens and teens have to know how to control their no world. They have to literally say accept no and give. Which are basically the most difficult boundaries. So they have to be okay in telling people no. They're your friends, they want to relate with you. Your friends may want to take you out, go out with you. You don't have to do it. So you say no. And then now Then after those basic lessons, as you speak about reproduction, as you speak about pregnancy, as you speak about STI, then you have to speak about sexual consent. And sexual consent is, you'll define it into two ways. The general way first of saying sexual consent is when a person allows the other person to interact with them sexually. So sexual here doesn't necessarily mean intercourse. Sexual terms can intimacy sometimes even extends to issues like hugging. Intimacy relates even with the way we relate. That is how intimacy starts before even it extends the sexual intercourse itself. So even those have to be defined in the spaces of consent, such that not just everybody will come and push themselves and hug. No. Or just because a boy in my class feels like they like me, so they can come and give me a peck. No. So you see, you are already defining for this child consent in the sexual sense. And then the emphasis is also here on consent in terms of the law itself, because the law defines that under 18 cannot give consent. So it therefore means that any person who using the sexual context itself to get sex from young teens is actually doing a criminal offense. And the importance of telling these parents is, number one, is not just your child knowing that it is wrong for somebody else to demand from sex from them, whether it's their teacher, whether it's their coach, whoever in that space who is elder than them. It's also about your child, because remember, we're teaching responsible citizens. So we also want our children to be the ones who are going back to younger children, demanding for sexual interaction, then that is wrong. They must know that even those who are younger than them cannot give consent. So you are bringing responsible citizens both ways. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. That because I remember when we were doing, I think the first or second session, we see peers who end up asking for sex from the younger children, you know, a Form 4 student asking for sex from a Form 1 or Form 2 student. And yes, that's so they cannot, that means they should not have sex.
What it means, you see, it defines how the power differences is defined is so assuming even you see peers, you're almost the same bracket, but is way older than you. That is it may be defined as an abuse because there's a power difference. So anywhere, even if you are peers, there's the way in which the law will has balances of it bringing out the power differences. So you don't want your child to be in that space where they'll be accused of using their power difference to what do you call it, to harass another child. So also power difference, sometimes you see it in terms of even influence. Somebody who may have so much money being used on another person. Power difference can even be in terms of your size. So your size may intimidate another person. So those brings the power difference. And that's why it's important for you to have those conversations holistically. Yes. So that even when they relate, you can relate with that one child today, but then the way that can be depicted, if there's power difference, is something that still young children are 17, 16 being taken to the juvenile because whatever interaction was defined as an abuse because of those power differences that occurred. Yes.
Yeah. And the concept of boundaries need to start quite early, so that by the time you come to sexual consent, it's an add-on to a foundation that you should have already laid. That means okay, I'm going to use this example. Okay. That means if a child does not want something, as a parent, you expect it to ask for consent to do some things to your child. And if a child says no, there has to be a way of you finding another way of convincing a child without using force. This has to come out from at a very young, tender age. Because if you're if you condition your child to say yes and then you force, that's exactly how will you be able to change that as a parent? So that's why it's very important to respect. I always say respect your child's decision. They may not favor you. So if you think whatever decision jeopardizing your child's safety, then you step up as a parent, but in a convincing manner and not on a push or a pull manner. You want to add something? Yeah.
Yes, I want to add something very important point you've raised. It's important for us to do consent culture consciously. So basically, especially to things that relate to personal boundaries. So an example is a child who has never understood what boundary is
Mm.
will never, like, you see the way we have people who disrespect people a lot when they're adults is because
Yes.
they grew up in environments where there were no boundaries, there was no respect.
Mm.
So there was no respect for them. So they never,
Mm.
the only language they learned is
Mm.
that disrespect, is that
Yes.
lack
Yeah.
of boundaries. And that is why
Mm.
even for them, they have it as adults. So as you're
Mm.
right from basics, especially to things that relate with boundaries, simple
Mm.
things as hugs. Let us practice
Mm.
allowing
Mm.
our children the space of saying no. Today I don't feel like
Mm.
hugging you. It's
Exactly.
okay. You are the mother. You feel like they owe you the old hug.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
to lift, as in cautiously, as in start practicing these simple words. May I have
Mm.
that big hug? You see,
Mm.
you've already conditioning this child that people ask how they want to relate with them,
Yeah.
and then they
Mm.
have the power. The most important lesson about boundary for children
Mm.
relating to their body is they have the power to say no, and their
No.
no is enough. So another
Mm.
part is we adults, what do you call it, emotionally, we want children to carry our emotional baggage. So you want somebody, because you have a very close friend who is coming, who is your close friend. Now you're
Mm.
forcing your child to hug that, because if the
Yeah.
other
Thank you for saying that.
friend
It's
is going to
true.
feel bad, that's garbage, emotional garbage does not belong to that child. So your
Mm.
child doesn't have to hug your friend. Literally,
Mm.
your friend who understands. As a parent, you can say, since you're practicing boundary and consent in this house,
Mm.
you can literally give and so a different hug, and that's okay. So
Mm.
that
Mm.
you give this child the authority to know that it's okay for me to say no and
No.
step back
Yeah.
in terms
Mm.
of what my boundaries. So
Mm.
they are flexing. What we say is consent. I see most of these conversations around consent and abuse way in adulthood where we say, when this guy doesn't understand, no. But you see,
Mm.
consent, it's a flex muscles. So
Yeah.
in the sexuality world, we call it's the flex muscle that has to be
Mm.
built.
Mm.
Because then you will not know how to do it when you're an adult.
It is
So we
true.
have to create those consent culture homes, and it starts from the basic.
Yes.
Even the way, even as siblings, don't
Mm.
force the younger children too much on the. Let
To
them
hug.
learn that there's the
Mm.
space. They can respect the space and
Mm.
boundaries. If you
Mm.
see that they are not relating so much, then you can have discussion one on one, even with the one is not is isolating themselves, just to find
Mm.
out why they're
What
isolating, and
is
then talk with
happening?
them how
Yeah.
they can isolate better. But don't make it
Mm.
like, what's it? No, wait. You see the way we
Eh.
do it?
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So just give people their
It's true.
spaces. It's important.
Especially right now, when you see we're in festive season, we are more likely to have, uncles and aunties and grandma and grandpa and friends and relatives and
Yeah.
everybody. Oh, that's it. You give me a. I mean, if you.
We call it NEMA. We call it the hug spectrum. So there are people who
Okay.
are high on the hug spectrum, the huggers
eh,
and the non-huggers.
mm,
So the huggers feel, since they're on
it's
that high level,
yeah.
everybody
It
has
is
to.
everybody has to come up to their level. No, not everybody enjoys hugs. There are people who love hugs, but if you
Yeah.
don't, and if you find your child not hugging, as you said, if remember their grandparent or their uncle, it's okay. I mean, if I have already
Yeah,
said
it's
hug,
okay. Yeah,
that
it's
should
okay.
be
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So parents, please take note. Okay. The next thing is what
And
is not.
another part of consent culture is us modeling it. So we don't just say it as parents. So we
Mm,
literally, as you said, we model it. So you
mm,
model it in those spaces in terms of even their rooms. You can just state it's okay. You may not even put locks in the room, but just have the
mm,
tenants saying "May I," so that they know there's that
yeah. Mm,
respect and boundaries to people's private
yeah.
spaces. And even
Mm,
yours, enforce yours, so that your children know that even in my space, you don't just rush. There's that
I mean,
they can
yeah.
literally just, so that they start
Mm,
practicing the yes and no back
yeah.
and forth from yourself.
Mm,
Yes.
mm. Okay. Thank you. So the other thing I would want us to talk about is what is not consent before we go to what is consent. Yeah? So what is not consent? What are the things that because you see, you hear people, I think we have read this, even to just this year. Today we went to the bar and I bought her drinks or I bought him drinks, and then it's time to leave. Somehow this person expects to live with this girl or boy because they bought them beers or chips or whatever. So what is not consent? And then we'll go
So
to what is, yeah.
consent, first I'll start with consent is not entitlement.
Yeah.
So consent is not assumed. It's not an
Mm,
assumption. So
mm,
an assumption here is because just because we were talking, just
mm,
because you invited me over for a date doesn't mean I have to have sex. That's an assumption. So you assume. So that is not consent. Consent is not entitlement in that just because I'm your girlfriend, maybe you've had sex several times, then it means even today I'm your girlfriend, I must have sex with you.
Sex with you, yeah.
That is entitlement, yes. That's not what consent is. Consent is also not body language. So just because I'm so lively and bubbly does not mean then that is consent.
Yeah.
So because I've had all the smiles, I've had all those, it actually means that's consent. That's not consent.
Yeah, there are people who assume because you're kind to them, it means now you have actually invited them to your own world.
Yes, and the reason why it's also important for us even to define this even to teenagers, because this is a phase in which teenagers start relating with other friends. So they may literally be pressured just because you're my friend. We've been going for these walks. That dates maybe even be terms of walks. That's because we're going to these walks. Now you owe me sexual favors. So you see why even teenagers need to understand this, because it is not all those things.
No,
those are not consent. Yes,
it's true. Yeah. And it's important because even the adults, as you said, a person who grew up that way without boundaries and not understanding people ask for consent, they just don't understand that you can actually meet someone who will be kind to you, have favor to you without really having anything else attached to it. I think it's very important for people to know that. Because if we teach our children to be kind people and nice people, whether to strangers, of course their guard has to be up. It doesn't mean now, you meet people and start treating them as animals, So people should be able to know consent is consent. It has to be said. And I want you to tell us what exactly is consent in terms of how do you know now this one is asking for my consent to do something. Yeah.
So before I define that, let me just go back. The way we said what consent was not.
Yeah.
Consent cannot also be given in situations in which it will have never been asked. So let me rephrase this.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I mean here is in terms of power play. So assuming your child is, and every child needs to learn this, that consent cannot be given in situations where they were not intended to be asked. So this one is in terms of you finding power plays. So just because your child is in a fix, they had no option way out. So they literally just had to say yes, because then that yes was their rescue. So just because they said yes to somebody who was harassing them did not mean that they gave consent, because it shouldn't have been asked in the first place. You get me?
Yes, I do.
So now coming back to what consent is, consent is freely given. Consent is expressed. So it's freely given. It's expressed
by using words.
Using words. Yes, by using words. And here and as we talk about the culture of training children how to give consent, let us learn to also tell our children that when they use body shakes, let them emphasize the no. So for example, for me in my house, even my son now, if I do this, he'll ask me, no, mommy, what's the answer? Because he knows in our house, we don't use body language communication.
That's good. That's
so
good.
He will ask you, I have asked you, you've done this. Me an answer. So it really is, you must also train your children that they have to say the answer, even if you know what the answer is, but just ask, what do you mean? So that they learn to speak. So they learn that I have to give out my answers. I have to express. Otherwise, I'm not spoken. So yes, that is why we say, because sometimes we assume that what somebody has expressed is totally different. So that is why it has to be freely given. In that freely given is, there's no duress. Freely given, there's no power play. There's nothing that is forcing the other person to give it. So it's a freely given yes.
Yeah.
It's an enthusiastic yes. As in, there's enthusiasm with that yes. And then what people should also know is that consent can be withdrawn.
Yes.
Assume I gave yes because I felt, because sometimes it happens and they say yes. But it's reached a point where in my mind it's like, no, this is off. What I'm doing is right? Just because I said yes at the start does not mean it's a yes. I'm
Tomorrow is
allowed
a
to
yes
bring
as
out
well.
my yes. You understand?
Yes.
And also these are even basic lessons, not just to adults, even to teenagers, because a teenager may be pressured to say yes to sex, but then they realize, no, this is not what I'm supposed to do. It's against my value. It's not right. It's probably not right. They are allowed to say no, because then consent, just because I said yes, does not mean that it ends in no.
Yeah.
It ends in yes. You understand? So
Yes.
it has. It's something that is fluid, and it has to be in those particular spaces. And it's also about respect and understanding. It's about intuiting and understanding the other person. What we also must teach children, because we are doing the consent culture right, is we must practice no in our home. Our children must learn how to receive no,
To receive
because
the
that
no.
is where most of the consent issues come from. People don't receive no.
Yeah.
They don't know how to receive no.
Yeah.
So we must learn that no is not rejection. No is no is an answer, because that person at that particular point does not
Doesn't
resonate with what
feel.
you want to know. So they've given you their answer. So it's not because you're rejected by the world. So
Mm.
our children must learn, and these are important lessons. I find we are in an age where we rarely want to give children no, because we think no is wrong. No.
Yeah,
The world
because
has yes and no. And
yeah.
children must learn to
Mm.
receive no, because
Mm.
that is the hardest part of the concept lesson. That
Mm.
receiving no. I want to
Mm.
play with my friend, so I'm demanding. My friend may not want to play with me now. That is how it
Mm.
starts. So my friend does not want to play with me now, because our mothers are friends. You go and play with so and so. So you really not even thought learned even
Why
my feelings,
you want
why
to?
I'm
Yeah.
feeling. So allow your children that it's okay when people are telling you no, and then it's okay for them to feel that rage and anger. But then as teach them about emotions after you felt it, you've you know has come. Yes, you feel a little bit anger. Yes, which is normal. That anger is not that it's bad. It's very
Yeah.
normal to feel irritated when somebody tells you no. But then you sit still, and then you calm yourself down in these particular ways. And then just to remind yourself that then whatever no you receive in whatever spaces is not a rejection, it's an answer.
No.
And those are
Yeah.
important conversations. Yes.
I love that. Actually, that was we're coming to that. But the maybe just to take you back a bit, the only thing I would want to say is when you give consent, for example, I've given you consent to hug me, or you know, it doesn't mean now you have to do everything else. Now you start kissing me and touching me inappropriately. No.
Yes, consent has to be given for every interaction.
Exactly.
Consent
Yeah.
has to be like literally at may I kiss you?
Every step. Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
consent for the kiss. It
Yes.
wasn't consent for you to start caressing me or having sexual
Touching.
intercourse.
Yeah.
So yes, you are right. Consent has
Yeah.
to be given at every particular point.
Yeah.
And it can still be withdrawn at any
At
particular
any point. Exactly.
And it's okay. And we must remember that it's about consent lesson is about not just you yourself. Consent is about interactions. It's about you and the other person. And it's about finding balance between both of your two worlds. So usually that's what consent is. And that is why it's important. It's a muscle that you have to flex to learn. Because it involves a lot of emotions. If you don't do that, then people really don't understand consent. What consent is realistically. Yes.
Okay. So when giving consent or when asking for consent, for example, maybe these are two teenagers who have been taking alcohol, or somehow they are under influence. And let's say an 18, they're not underage, but they are, let's say, 18-year-olds. Can one ask or give consent in that state? Is that considered to be consent before we talk of responsibility? Yeah.
It's literally it's a bit of a nuance area, because it depends on the state of both, but generally, and that is why overall we say the enthusiastic means here, if your mind is clouded in judgment, it therefore means that you cannot give
consent. Okay.
Consent. You understand? So that because then how do we define how your mind was and what degree it was at that particular
It's
time?
true. Yeah.
Just to be safe is just avoid asking for consent or giving consent.
Giving consent when you're not stable.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. When under influence, because that it means that your judgment is not fully 100% what it's supposed to be. Yes.
All right. Okay.
And then what I wanted to also add, I know you're going to ask me something else, but let me just add because I forget is how also we teach teenagers about consent. Please, parents, movies are the best teachable moments. Because even now there's what the sex educators are trying to push for. They're trying to push for a clause where every movie will literally, you see the way they write under 18, so they write the age. They also write no consent in these movies because there's a lot of consent movies, which then children pick like that is how they relate. So how you use it a teachable moment is when you sit down, even if it's those animation, this is how you do the lessons. So you see just a friend just coming and hugging, or the way they're interacting is not the right way. So use those particular moments to reinforce the consent lesson so that the children sees a practical point. Was what they did right, and why was it? Or was it wrong, and why was it? Was consent practice here? Was consent practice? No. And why is that wrong? So that even the child, because then those ones give them practical relationship, because movies have a lot of practical relationships areas. Then the child generally even picks and then learn, even me in my spaces, this is important for me to practice. Yes.
Okay. So we go back to the no. How do we receive? Okay, you talked about receiving. I know receiving, even I think that's a continuous thing, because even for adults at my level, sometimes you are like, oh yeah. So how do you receive no gracefully?
It's let me start by saying it's about a lot of self-awareness, because most of your time your reaction is never about the other person. It's about you.
It's ego. It's true.
Always about you. So if we take this as adults, even children, when you train them, before you react, breathe in. That 90-second breath allows your brain to think before you react, and it allows your brain to think now. So you start treating your children that when they receive feedback, they think the emotion. I'm feeling that 90-second is for them to breathe in and say it's okay, the feeling and that, and then ask themselves, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
Why that person, your brother has treated you this way? Why are you feeling this way? So let us avoid the situation where we lump them that achana nayo. Allow your child to practice, because they're building a muscle. Allow them to process emotion and know it's okay. What I'm feeling is okay. But then understanding, why am I feeling this way? So am I feeling this way because they've done that to me, or I'm feeling that way because there's something inside that is making me feel? So that is how you start teaching them to feel no. So for example, a practical example, even if your child may come back and tell you, I wanted to sit next to so and so in the bus. So tell them it's very okay that first upload that they accepted that person's no and move to another seat. So then that's, you're also emphasizing on them accepting the boundaries. And then just ask them how they felt and discuss about that feeling, and that's how. So that is how you help them feel those emotions, because then that is how it helps them to accept those no's. And also it's important that, as I was saying, we don't just give blank yes and no's. So even as a parent, you can intentionally, for example, I was going to be asked for something. So if you're a parent who ever says yes, sometimes pray and pause before you give an answer. Maybe you want to give it as a teaching lesson. So I will tell you no, and then maybe you will feel sad if it is something that is related to the family. But I may say, because they know at this point, and then explain why you're giving that child no. But also understand that there may be reasons to know you're giving no, and then allow them feel whatever. If they want to sulk, just allow them to sulk, and then let them ask how they felt, and then how they can handle those situations. So that's how we train people to receive no. So that then a child slowly grows, so that by the time they're arrived in, they know they've normalized those no's. And the reason why this is also important is, if you don't train children how also to receive no, is then that they may mirror it. So mirror it here is assuming your friends, like you feel way because I've told you no, and you feel bad. So I feel way, and then again I say yes.
Yes, actually, that was the next thing. Yeah.
So when now I'm trained into receiving no, I learn that it's okay for you to feel that bad thing. That's it's okay. You feel it, but you get over it because it's a way of you processing your emotion. So I don't have to go back and tell you yes just because you're weighing. So I'll allow you to deal with your emotions because I've learned as a child that phase is okay for you to feel it. I've also been allowed to feel it and process it. Yes.
So that was the next thing. After me saying no, usually sometimes you feel bad because sometimes we are forced to say no to people we care about, people we like, to people who are our friends. So there's a way, yes, I will feel and I will feel bad. So how do I respond as a person who has actually just said no to someone I really like, simply because, of course, it's against my values, but I also feel bad because I also have emotions, So how do I respond?
Okay. So part of the training now with the children is in also giving the no. So giving the no here is how can we give no? So we can give no in different phases. So I can give you a no, but not give an explanation. So you also have instances where you can allow your child, even you can practice with the child. Sometimes you can just say no and not explain why you're giving no. So there's sometimes in which I can give you no, I don't need to explain. My no is enough the way it is. And then also there's a point in which I can tell you no, and then I tell you the reason why. So if I think you need to know the reason why, and maybe most of the points here it's against my value, so I need to say no to it because it's really so you also allow scenarios where you allow your child those places in which they can give you no, and you don't have to ask them why they've given you no. Sometimes also when they give you no, ask them why is it a no, so that they also start practicing that. Sometimes I may give no and then give you the answer or into that why, and them explaining the why helps them go back to their grounding and say to themselves that it's okay for that particular answer they have given. Because most of the time when I tell you no and I tell you why, then really it's from within. So I don't feel bad about it because I've given you an answer. And it's also just normalizing the conversations around no, is that even as you give no and keep quiet, sometimes you can even come and discuss. Sometimes it feels bad giving people no, but I still have to give it because 1, 2, 3. So you don't have to do the explanation now. You can come and explain to your child later. It's how giving no, sometimes it's hard. I know you wanted a phone because your friends have phones. But I've said no because 1, 2, 3. And sometimes giving that no is bad because I may feel that you may feel I don't love you, but then now the answer still remains a no, and this is why it's a no. So those instances is also you allow your child those particular spaces, and the best places to practice this is interactions with siblings. Is in which, for example, things we've said like maybe technology, you don't want them to, they want an upgrade, you don't want. Those are beautiful things in which you can share this lesson. You feel they're not ready for phones, you can basically do what? Just give explanations and allow them to learn. Those are simple ways, areas. Simple interactions like greetings are areas in which you can literally practice giving no and receiving no. Yes, so those are perfect points. Yes.
Okay.
Also, the time when it's your boundary that has been broken, you need to speak out. So speak up, call it out. So just say no, you're going against my boundary. This is not how I relate. This is not how I behave. Because then it means that person consciously doesn't understand what consent is. So they will not be reasoning enough. So now this is why I was saying, even that we are saying training that no point is very important for us. So that I give a no, it doesn't matter how you feel, you not sulk, whatever you're feeling is okay, but I've given you a no. And it's not a rejection, I'm giving it an answer, I'm giving you. So it's also that if your boundary is broken, just basically you can say stop, no, and call it out. And those are also important lessons to tell children, that they can really say stop, no, and call it out. So the person's boundary is broken, is you can call it out. If you think you're in a very awkward situation, you can literally walk out of it. Remember we talked about safe words the last sessions, and I'd love anybody who joined the last session to go and watch it. So safe word is having an emergency code that you use to signify you are in danger. So sometimes your teens may have even gone out with friends. And they've been in a pressured in position where they want to see and they don't know. So because you have a safe word, your child can literally just send you that code, and as a parent, you can come to rescue them because they may not. Maybe they went with their friends. Their friends even were carried them, so they don't even have means of coming back. So that then they can be rescued. Giving your children safety code also gives them that power that sometimes you may be in those awkward positions, but you can still seek for help, because when you're in an awkward position, then you literally try to find, if you can rescue yourself, you rescue yourself. If you can't, you find for how best can somebody else rescue you. So some of this includes that sending people messages. You can even send your other friends who think you think can even come back and rescue in such situations. Yes.
So 2 things there. Maybe you play along because you don't know. Okay. Maybe you play along because you don't know how else am I supposed to do. Like, like you're processing your own things, and then you're pushed, and of course maybe things now escalate really, really. So how does a girl, it usually happens to boys to girls, how does a girl come out from that?
After it has happened is number one, there may be that guilt that they may feel, was what I did literally right. And it's just reminding yourself that you may have broken one particular practice of consent, but since consent is a muscle I can learn, and next time I can literally say still no. So just because, and that is why I said it's important for us to know that's because I misstepped and said yes, I should not kill myself for the next phase and not say no. So that we will normalize also, I may misstep this one, but then the next one I can literally just pick up. And if we nurture consent rightly, trust me, if we nurture consent rightly as a society, most of these things will not have them.
It is
because
true.
everybody in that society, whether it's that boy or that girl, they will grow up knowing these are the things. So it goes back to us as parents, as a society. We may have been raised in a society where consent was not practiced. Because we were brought up in a different cultural consent of it's one area, and you have to say yes to please the other gender. But then it is up to us as parents to break that cycle and bring up children in an environment that is consent cultured. And the beauty is we'll be fighting even most of these abuse that are even related to peers, all these things. We're literally fighting all these things because then the consent will have been nurtured rightly. And what we said is, as we said, children must learn. It's okay for me to say no. I don't give an explanation. It doesn't work with me. It's a no. And I don't have to feel bad because you're feeling bad. It's okay. If you feeling bad is okay. Because if you teach your children the power of processing emotions, then they know, even when my friend is sulking and processing that emotion badly, it's okay. That's an emotion that they go through. And they're going to outcome it. So you must empower our children as parents. It is upon us to reframe the entire consent culture. We have to do it. Also, if you have young adults who you may not have cultured, but then it's important for you to start having these conversations with them on what rightfully consent is and what consent is
not. Okay. All right. And that brings us to a close. Thank you so much, Emily. Yeah, so we closed 2022 with consent and responsibility. Parting shot, Emily?
For me, parting shot is every home must consciously practice consent culture. As in, if you're not practicing it, try this festive season and 2023, let it be your theme. Conscious, as in we're doing consent culture in our homes.
Yes. Yeah. And for me, it's boundaries for children, and respect your children's boundaries. Most of the time we are guilty of that simply because we think these little children are living in our homes, so they cannot decide and choose their own things. No. Okay. When a child says no, it's no. Even if, as what Emily has said, don't put your emotional baggage on your child. If you feel bad because it's your, I don't know, maybe it's your brother or sister has been told, no, I can't hug you. No, it's okay. This is their space. And we should learn to respect that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. I wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas. And I wish you a glorious 2023. All right?
Okay.
Everybody, bye.
Bye.
See you. Good night.